Homeostasis is a life for the principle, let it be as it is. Most important is do not stray. I would like to ask you, just sincerely, just to be sincere with me. Who of you dreams about comfort? Just be honest. If you would like to live a more comfortable life, please raise your hand. All of us, we are this way. Now you understand why other people prefer such way of life, because subconscious, if you are not taught, flesh always strives to a comfort zone, but a wise person, he brings problems and pressure to himself. I give you a very primitive example. When I had no car, when I hadn't car, I just used public transport, and I was I had such a good figure, and I didn't have to visit a gym because I was I had quite good figure because of because of life with pressure. And then when I bought a car, I had a belly, and it was a big problem to conquer myself because of comfort zone. And it was tragedy with me, and wife just took me this way. Do not eat on the night. How is it possible not to eat on the night if I run over the days? And I thought that when I had no car, I was suffering. It was so difficult for me. But life under the pressure is the best blessing that you may have. Now I have to find time to visit gym. So relax is not good for us. Is not prescribed to us. The first point, instinct of self-reproduction. In spite whether you are believer or not believer, there are biological factors that impact his behavior. First of all, these are the instincts. For example, instinct of self-reproduction. Self-reproduction, consists of sex, and it was opened that sex is the biggest stimulus that pushes us to move forward. And when person opposes, it is when you are a biomass, not you are in control, not your spirit, but they are far from the spirit. But we know that God created this way, that in order to become a master of our life, God gave soul, brain, and God gave spirit. So 2 stages of the battle there are: how to control ourselves and to stay a man. Or vice versa, just to go with the flow when homeostasis conquers you and you do whatever you want. Are you with me? For example, instinct of self-reproduction pushes people for a definite, undesirable sexual connections, about which they will have regrets. And it speaks that we are going to be templated during our whole life. Proverbs 16:32. Whoever is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules the spirit than he who takes a city. Every day there is a definite psychological pressure on a person. For example, according to statistics, for 1 year, man has millions of different sexual desires and temptation, sexual hints. Even on the level of subconscious. He went on the street, he see so many beautiful ladies. It doesn't matter, do you like these ladies or you don't? There is something in their subconscious. If women are protected, you need to take care of them, but man, he isn't familiar that he has such processes inside of him, and he has approximately 1 million of such temptation hidden or obvious, and it is in direct or indirect form. Sometimes men do not understand it because it happens on the level of subconscious. Life in righteousness. Just open your PC and walk on the street, and that's all. There is no place to hide. So that is why you need to have more power. You cannot hide your husband into a monastery. There is no space for all of them, but who is going to earn money? So this is not the answer. There is another answer for this issue. And the answer is to teach this man to find a reserved energy. And this energy can come, and reserved energy can come in the form of to be at the present moment, because all these temptations come when you are relaxed, and you have to be switched to the spiritual energy. Life in righteousness. Believers also are tempted, and they live according to instincts, and it brings them to disappointment and to the fall. As the Christians, we have to understand that temptation of our flesh will happen to us during whole our life. That is why we need to learn to control them. Righteousness in God, it's not the full escape from the secular world. It is ability to control your desires and your actions. All of us who also lived among them at one time, gratifying the cravings of our sinful nature and following its desires and thoughts, like the rest, we were by nature objects of wrath. For example, many men, being believers, have problems with the sexual attraction. It is a normal reaction of the flesh, which can be expressed in uncontrolled pollution during the sleep, and also indefinite thoughts and desires that appear not only in men's but women's understanding. Having such a moment, some Christians are disappointed in themselves and they stop visiting the church servant people. They even want to commit suicide because they consider themselves as not righteous, sinners, and not decent ministers of God. All will be tempted by the impact of the flesh. We must understand that all people, in spite of the status and position in society, will be tempted by our flesh. The main is to keep your sober mind and to understand that our righteousness is hidden in Jesus Christ, as we may learn how to control our thoughts and actions, to make decisions from which we have to deny or haven't. The way of Christian person, we cannot be perfect because our righteousness doesn't have the ending version, because during all our Christian life we'll be tempted with the temptation of our flesh. Of course, there are Christians who keep silent about their temptation, but it doesn't mean that they have no of them. Usually, these topics are not raised. Example from the Pastor Sunday's life. Being a young pastor, I was disappointed in my own eyes when I felt a sexual temptation. But when I wrote book of one psychologist, I understood that there are laws of our flesh, and these laws are acting in spite of our desires. Also, in my ministry, I met some people who had problems with their sexual life, and because of that, they left the church considering themselves as unpure. But purity in God is expressed in desire to live in righteousness and to run off God and run from sin. Proverbs 16. For the righteous falls 7 times and rises again, but the wicked stumble in times of calamity. Instinct of self-preservation. Instinct of self-preservation expressed in our protective reaction of a person. It is often excuses, and it is expressed in a desire to live in comfort, warm, and comfort zone. Stimul is the form of biological influence. Is the external factor that provokes a person on a definite actions. Compliment provokes person for a good behavior. Ignorance provokes a person to a definite reaction as a response. Number 4, reflexes. Our instincts will be striving to control us, but we cannot allow them to do it. We have to regulate them with the help of our logical thinking. For example, we cannot stop aggressively reaction to the comments, knowing that these remarks are in our favor. We can take off warm clothes in our house, but this concern is not master all our thoughts. Physical world that surrounds us, but also spiritual world that is invisible. Matthew 4:4. But he answered, "It is written, man shall not live by the bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." We are living not only by material things, but invisible things. For example, by a word that can come from God and from the devil. You know that the word can kill or resurrect. Life and death in the power of our tongue. At the beginning was the word, and it is a huge resource, which is energy. We can perceive the word. We can perceive the word and to make a volume of personality, and then to make product. This is the whole algorithm, and we can release the word and to create something by the word. Example: if you know to know about the power of word, I have written 2 books. Let's finish with our games, how to use the power of words. Let's finish with planes. And the second book is how to have an authority among people. The first example: through the word, person can receive inspiration, faith, and hope. Hearing preaching, person can be healed to get rid of depression, fear, or worry. These are how to have authority among people, and this is how to stop these games about the power of the word. In the church, many drug addicted get delivered of their addiction forever, even though that science proves that this is impossible. Second example, experienced pastors and leaders can be switched on the fourth dimension, spiritual world, and to get revelation how a man can have problems with his sight. As a spiritual person who became a master of his spirit through fellowship with the Holy Spirit, now I can be switched. It is like a radio wave. You can change your waves on the radio. So the same goes here. I'm on the I'm on the stage of consciousness, but I can be switched off. I can be switched to the spiritual world, and I know that some people have problems with ear, and this person has problems with his right ear. And then there is another person who has problems with his feet. Maybe it is the right foot is bigger than the left one, and some has problems with his left feet. I can hear, I can listen what God says. I can see some things. Somebody has problems with his stomach, and somebody has problems with losing of a hair, problems with his scalp. So but if I wouldn't be focused, my focus on the high level, and I can imagine God, please, I give you my body, you can use it. Somebody has problem with his neck at the moment, so you can be healed. And then people come to me and then testify. They cannot comprehend how does he know about all these problems.
But when some believers have pain in your elbow and it even burns or something, I think so there's a person right here right now. You have burning in your elbow. Receive your healing right now. There you go. But even if you are not tuned into your consciousness, you cannot even listen to yourself, let alone listening to heaven. And then you think that how come God doesn't speak to me only to Pastor Sunday? Yeah, God is speaking all the time. It's just that you are in homeostasis. You are not hearing anything. You have rubbish in your head, and that's all the things you hear. And you don't have the time even to calm down and listen to yourself. So you should stop living for yourself. You should forget about the things that are happening with you and then concentrate on God. Only then you can bring some benefit to this earth. Somebody has problem with your kidney and God is healing you right now. Okay, we're not going to continue because we need to read. Experienced pastors and ministers can move to the fourth realm, the spiritual world, and then they can receive revelations about problems of people around them, whether they have physical problems or situational problems. In other words, they can receive so much more information from the spiritual world about the things around them than a usual regular person would. Perception of the spiritual world. If a person is able to develop their spirit much more than their flesh or their soul, they will be able to hear the voice of the Spirit of God, and they will feel people, they will understand their problems, and they will give wise advice to solve those problems. Moreover, when you develop yourself spiritually, you will automatically step into the realm of the spiritual world without fasting and praying. How to achieve a high level of development of your spirit? In order to achieve a high level of development of your spirit, you must learn to suppress the biological factors that influence you. In other words, you need to be able to suppress your instincts and reflexes, stimuluses, and emotions. You need to learn to use personal prayer retreats, fasting, and prayers in order to learn how to focus on being on the level of active consciousness. In other words, you release yourself, you release your personality, your active consciousness, and your spirit from the power of the things that are on your mind all the time. So you create this pressure, even if you create this pressure artificially, that's what helps you. And only then the human being will be able to stop living with their own problems and start managing their life. Consequences of interaction with the power of the spiritual world. Not only spiritual ministers can be in touch with the spiritual world, but any other person can. But interaction with the powers of the spiritual world can make a person unhappy if they go into the negative spiritual world, connecting with the devils and becoming magicians or witches and so on. And then those kind of people, they either lose children or even their relatives, or become sick or ill, they become poor, so they never end well, they usually die earlier, because whoever interacts with the dark spiritual powers, they will do evil, and they will not live in love, peace, and God, and they will not live with God. Extrasensoric people, psychics, they have great power, but they will never compare with the power that God has. How to develop the ability of interaction with the God's spiritual world and to use God's power. Number one, you must make the Word of God your flesh. So to keep the Word, as we spoke about it yesterday, either think about it more, or discuss it with other people, or find another place when you're alone, until this Word becomes a picture in your eyes. So you need to think about different situations where you could apply this Word and make it your flesh. So point one, you must make the Word of God your flesh. In order to develop your spirit and learn to interact with the spiritual world, we must fill ourselves with the Word of God that comes from the mouth of God. In other words, make the Word your flesh. For example, in order to make the Word that says that love never gets irritated, and if you want to make this Word your flesh, you must imagine situations where you could get irritated. You should think about your possible reaction, and you should pray for God to help you to react the right way, and that your actions would correspond to His Word. Thus, you must work upon yourself to make sure that the Word becomes part of you, and God would release His grace and the truth. You should pray for grace that would come from God to help you get rid of your problem, and you should learn the truth. Forming a new feeling in yourself. When you imagine different situations you wouldn't want to be in, but you also imagine that you react the right way, then you artificially form a new feeling in you. Because it is the feeling that gives birth to an action, and that in its turn is kept in our subconscious and replaces the old feeling that is responsible for negative reactions. When does the word become flesh? Sometimes it's quite difficult to make the word your flesh, because you need great efforts in order to do that, in order to break yourself and come out of the comfort zone and start working on yourself systematically. We need to learn not to react the way we used to, but to start controlling our emotions. The word becomes our flesh only when it defines our actions. The word becomes our flesh when it dictates our behavior. And the word becomes our flesh when it becomes our essence. So we don't react with our emotions because that's how we feel. That's how they treated me, and that's how I feel, that's how I react. No, but it is when the word becomes your standard, it becomes your value, and I react only according to the truth. That's it. The power of spiritual purity and holiness. When a person starts working upon themselves systematically and they uproot the negative traits of their characters from themselves, they uproot the wrong reaction and their sins, then they will be able to heal other people. Because their spiritual purity, holiness, and light will be able to destroy the reasons and the roots of sicknesses of other people, such as hatred, offenses, irritation, and so on. For example, okay, help me again. Let's say Bogdan has a problem with irritation, and he stands beside me, and I am a pastor or a person who has developed positive energy, a core in myself, and I fill myself with love according to the commandments, right? So, but he has irritation problem, and irritation is negative energy, and love towards all people is obviously positive energy. So, for instance, if somebody offends you and you are aggravated, will you be able to say, "Oh, hello, so happy to see you," to that person? Will you be able to do that? No. You're angry. You're upset because because negative energy takes away enthusiasm from you. It takes away life from you. You only are left with bad feelings. But when you're filled with positive energy like joy, then joy is much stronger than offense. So happiness is yay, hello, or love, I'm so happy to see you, so wonderful. So that's energy, right? So a person who is filled with joy and love of God, and so this guy stands next to me. He doesn't know what's happening, but he just feels peace coming upon him. Why? Because I'm standing here with positive energy. It's the same thing that if he was in darkness and I with positive energy would have been light. So darkness comes close to light, and light obviously casts out darkness, and he feels peace coming upon him, irritation decreasing. Right now, somebody is having pain in your ear. It's like a knocking or shooting pain or noise in your ear or something like that. So this person, the thing that he is experiencing is a result of negative energy, or somebody has female problems and somebody else has skin problems on your leg. All of that is a result of negative emotions, offenses or irritation or hatred or any kind of sin, and that turns into illness, and that's how it is manifested, or somebody has a tumor or cancer or something. And when I'm here on this stage, who has paid my price and time to spend time with God, and I'm filled with positive things and peace and love, I got myself rid from all these negative things. And if somebody is feels angry, but you have so much positive energy right here that this power, this light of God is radiating from me, and it defeats the darkness. We call it the power of God. We call it anointing, and that's why if you are feeling any of that negative consequences, you can be in contact with this. You will be healed, and or the name of Jesus. The name of Jesus is the power and holiness and light, and when that's when you say that by His name you will defeat any negative things. So, or any word of God is light, and it will defeat illnesses and problems. And you have so much light. So when that woman that had issue of blood for years, and she stepped closer to Jesus, and she was thinking, if I just touch the part of his robe, I will be healed. Through her consciousness, she saw the picture that if I just touch, and that faith of hers, Jesus didn't even know about what was going on, but it's written that power was withdrawn from Jesus, and he had so much positivity, so much light and power and love and light, and that it killed that death in her, that illness with her. Sometimes it happens with me. Some people touch me, and then they say that, okay, tumor left my body, because there is energy that they have taken, because people are filled with, not with that destroying darkness or death that people with negative emotions have, but there's so much light that have been generated here that it kills the darkness of those people. I don't know if you understand what I mean. Okay, let's continue. How to develop the ability to interact with the spiritual world and use the truth. It's point two. How come psychics, it doesn't work the same way with them? Because they work without changing the values. They are not filled with the purity and holiness of the Word of God, and they want to heal. And that's why, what do they end up doing? They have to draw energy. For example, a psychic, okay, come here. Can you come to a psychic and say, okay, I have a pain in my leg, and they will say, they will have a session with you. That's what they call it. So they will have a session with you. They will start, waving their hands around you and just murmur something. For example, you have pain in your leg, and they start moving the energy from a healthy part of your body to the sick part of your body. Or if you have, if it's your leg or your heart or whatever, and you feel better, you feel healed. But in a week or two or months, something else starts, you start having pain somewhere else where they took the energy from, and it becomes even worse. And then in you know the where the part that they did heal starts aching again, because the energy is not, you're not replenishing it. So psychics and witches, they start demanding you to bring maybe some belongings of other people or something, so that they could take energy from that person to you. And in some countries where they have very, like, low level of of this witchcraft, they kill animals or even people. So they bring sacrifices, a sacrifice of somebody, even your relative or something, so they can use that energy for you. That's why you should never go into these kind of things. That it's all from the devil, all those psychics and witchcrafts and sorcerers and all of that. So you will always get into a worse situation, because they help you at your cost, at your account. But only God is the source of all energy. So if you are connected with God, you will when people get some energy from me, or they got some energy from Jesus, we don't lose anything, because they took energy from God in the first place. And that's why sorcerers and psychics, they have to look for other sources of energy. Next, point two, to start living according to the truth. The same way as we make the word our flesh, we are able to change ourselves in order to start living according to the truth, and not according to traditions and the ways of this world. We are able to leave the state of homeostasis and leave our comfort zone, and start living by the truth, and make love for the truth a part of our nature. Point three, to change our character. In order to develop our spirit and learn to interact with the spiritual world, we must do the following: change our character, develop new habits, and establish the necessary principles. We must create a character in ourselves that would be based upon love towards God and other people, on constant optimism and positive outview. Love must be the foundation of our character so that all our actions would be founded on love towards other people. Life without hatred towards your neighbor. We must make a decision that we will never allow hatred towards other people into our heart. We will not allow negative attitude or judgment. If this principle, this value, is made a part of you, then you can overcome any evil. You will be stronger than your flesh, than your instincts, than your emotions and desires. And that is when you will be able to reflect the character and image of God Himself. Consequences of life according to the traditions of this world. If we live according to the traditions and ways of this world, the norms and values of this world, then they will influence us in our spirit and form our mentality and outview in such a way that we will not even guess that it is happening. Moreover, we will not be able to accept God's values, principles, and the truth into our spirit, because traditions and human traditions, they destroy the power of God in your life. Ephesians 2:1-3, and you are dead by your criminal activity and because of your sins, because you used to live according to the traditions of this world, by the will of the prince of this world that is in today, and the spirit that acts in the sons of resistance. Point 4. Means of motivation. All of us are able to receive the power of God through motivation that is manifested in the power of the spirit of the preacher or a minister that is poured down on their listeners. But this power may escape our spirit if we don't learn to work upon ourselves in order to hold it. And then our spirit will be weak and we will be subdued by our biological factors and instincts. We recommend you to read the following books. One Day is the Picture of Your Whole Life, and the book How to Raise Your Child Well. Questions. Question 1. Why a person may be upset with their own behavior? Why a person may be upset with their own behavior? Question 2. How to research oneself. Describe the algorithm of your actions. How to research oneself. Describe the algorithm of actions. Question 3. How does our lifestyle form? How is our lifestyle formed? Question 4. What is the first factor that influences our behavior? What is the first factor that influences our behavior? Question 5. How do you understand the word homeostasis? How do you understand the word homeostasis? Question 6. Explain the difference between instinct, stimulus, and reflex. Explain the difference between instinct, stimulus, and reflex. Question 7. Am I a personality? Question 7. Question 8. What is the second group of factors that influences our behavior? What is the second group of factors that influences our behavior? Question 9. What is cathexis? What is cathexis? Question 10. What is the difference between homeostasis and cathexis? What is the difference between homeostasis and cathexis? Question 11. What is the third group of factors that influences our behavior? What is the third group of factors that influences our behavior? And the last question, question 12, what is the advantage of the power of the spiritual world over cathexis and homeostasis? What is the advantage of the power of the spiritual world over cathexis and homeostasis? While we're listening to this, I would want us to listen to people who would like to share what you have, who have received something today or one of these days and you want to share. So please, if you want to share, you come up to the stage. Let us have some more lights. Hello. I have received a wonderful news that cathexis, the law of cathexis, can be used to overcome our homeostasis, something that we got when we were born. Do you think it's good news? Do you think that it's wonderful that we can use our inner problems or negative emotions, we can turn it into positive emotions using cathexis? Especially if you add some spiritual power, God's power, then you can become a true winner. That's wonderful. Hello, it was so interesting for me and so unexpected to see how this topic has developed. Especially as you, Pastor, have revealed this, the understanding of this topic and why we are the way we are and what rules our behavior. And yes, why you are the way you are as Pastor. And it's become very clear. It's clear now because we have seen all the proof and all the scientific proof and work that has been done. And if we have people moving in the hall, you're free to go. If you're too tired to sit, you can go, but at least make sure you're not making any noise and you don't distract people who are staying to listen to these people talking from the stage. So what I think that has become extremely clear to me when you explain these three categories, to compare with our flesh and our soul and our spirit, and I have learned so many lessons as I was listening. I listened to this topic like in one eye blink, and the understanding that I have received through examples and scientific proof on how I can manage myself, understand myself, change my behavior, and I have seen the reasons of my wrong behavior and how I can correct it. So as a result, I can see that certain amount of my time I've been living on the level of homeostasis and things that doesn't I don't resist the things that are happening with me. I'm looking for comfort, and as a result I react just like everybody else, and I'm like that diffuse mass and biomass and everything. And the example, the very bright example when you made with the reaction at irritation. So if you feel irritation on the level of the five senses of on the five senses, and the first thing you do when you're irritated, you say something, you reacted. And this is, if you do have that kind of a reaction, then this is the stage of homeostasis, when reforms happen in your life and it's painful and you don't understand why things are happening to you, and you react, oh, that's the power, it's the government, so that's irritation. The second theory, by Alfred Adler, he says that you have to be subdued by your goal. Okay, sorry, I will cut you. If you would like to join the book editors team, the editors that help me, we're going to have a meeting in my office in 1 hour at 5:30. I will be waiting for all of you who would like to become a book editor, or if you are a book editor already, I want to meet you at 5:30. And maybe we will take you to write this topic so you can continue now. So cathexis means that if you have irritation, and my reaction to this irritation is that I don't pay attention to it and I move on to my goal. I don't change myself on the inside, but still I don't react as the person from the first category would. And the third category is the level of spiritual influence, when I forget about my consequences, my circumstances and my situation. I not only do not react, I would, but I also remove the irritation. I change myself and I form something new and help other people. So this is so interesting to me. I find it amazing. Thank you very much. And again, I come here with the words of gratitude to you, Pastor Sunday. I want to say thank you. It's much easier now to listen and perceive. For the first 2 days, it was extremely hard, and I was waiting for something new. So now it's so much easier to receive new information. How come we don't have any men here on the stage to share? I don't really understand. Do I not touch men with what I'm saying, with what I'm teaching? That guy, you have been here before. You're kind of the savior for all men here in this church. So I wanted to say that since 2004, I've been in the Embassy of God Church, but I have never had the desire to come up to the stage and speak. So I thought I was just, I'm not too bright, and only the brightest people of the Embassy of God and the leaders of the Embassy of God should come up here, or some people that have just come to the church and they're so naive and they have something to say, and but I was like in the middle. I can just sit down and give the way to everybody, so there is no point for people like me to come out and say something, because I understood something, but I don't even know if I will help somebody. I'll just take up the time, and not everybody likes to listen to people who share their testimonies from the stage, and so I don't know if I have to. And the second reason, Pastor Sunday, is I don't know who was offended at the terms biomass and animal world. For me, it is so sobering, you know, when when you explain the instincts, the animal instincts, to be offended, to be irritated. Now you don't even want to become offended or irritated, so it kind of helps you. And now, if you don't use terms like that, you don't see how serious your problem is. So as we have learned today, habits will be formed, but first you have to do some actions to form those habits. So now I have been to this stage to share my testimony. I'm here again, and I will do it again, and that's how we'll develop good habits. And another thing I have learned is that I'm not here and now during prayer, like when we have the time of prayer. You know, people are here on the stage, they're praying, they walk to and fro, and then I connect, I'm praying, but I'm on autopilot, I'm not here and now. So how can God answer such a prayer? Of course He wouldn't. You're not even there in the prayer. That's what you just do some religious um, things, and you think that it will bear fruit. You're not even doing anything. What does it mean to pray? First you have to see that God is there in front of you. You imagine that you are in front of God, and then you start speaking with Him, not just with whoever, but with Him. Next. So we pastor, we practice this even between each other, some even helping each other. So somebody can be offended. If somebody gets offended, then we say, oh, that's animal world, or somebody wants to do something wrong, and we just kind of mention these terms that really are sharp to the ear. Thank you very much, Pastor. Thank you, everyone. I want to share things that I have learned from the sermon. One is that I understood that if I'm not here and now, and my consciousness is not active, that I am only potentially a human being. And obviously I'm only potentially a believer, because if I am here on the level of my soul, then how can I talk about Christianity and the Spirit of God? Two, any emotion is the source of any energy, either destructive energy or constructive energy. In my case, I have a problem of being a bit too emotional. I may not seem to be emotional to people around me, but I actually have all this emotion inside me, and I I kind of keep my peace for a long time, but at a certain point I just can't take it anymore, and my irritation, offenses, just destroy everything around me. Number three, that really touched me, is how you, Pastor Sunday, you showed us very constructively on the example of the scientists, Adler and Freud, how they were looking for the truth with their scientific methods. So not being believers, they were still looking for the truth.